Do you know that's an interesting strategy? Start at the end. You get hold of a book, look at the conclusion. Is it something I value and wish to move towards? Not sure when I look at it. Perhaps. Or I'm very sure, in which case I read the book. Perhaps I'm not sure, so I flick through some of the back pages. I go back into the book itself and see, is this my sort of book? Is it speaking to me or not really? But I'm bearing in mind that conclusion. Is that the sort of conclusion I want? Is that what I'm happy with, that conclusion? Does the rest of the book achieve that conclusion? And do I value that conclusion? Do I value that conclusion rather more by reading the book? Does it lead me the right way or astray? You see, you need discernment, don't you? And who you are will start to interact with that situation. And you may put the book down as really not worth it, I can read something better than this. Or you may think, wow, it seems to be speaking to me. Both the conclusion and the bits that I'm picking up so far from the book. In which case, you'll continue reading wherever you are or start from the beginning, I don't know. I tend not to start from the beginning. I plunge in wherever I am, somewhere through the text, and if I find it gripping, I continue with it, and if I don't, I click on somewhere else, and if I don't, I click on, and this happens a number of times, and I come to a conclusion, whether I'm in the book or whether I really should be putting it back on the shelf, looking for something else. But do you see? What is the conclusion you're looking for to your life? What's your ideal conclusion? What's your ideal goal? What is idealized in your mind? Or haven't you yet? That's worse. No purpose. To be no purpose, well, you do nothing. To have no purpose is death itself. Don't let yourself degenerate into that situation. A purpose is better than no purpose. Even if it's wrong, a wrong purpose may, in the experience of pursuing such, change your mind about the purpose to something rather better. And what is your ideal purpose to be? Isn't it something of goodness, as you understand it? Happiness and joy, peace and fulfillment, and perhaps a continual life. Perhaps your goal is everlasting life, life eternal. Perhaps it's to enjoy a fullness of life that you envisage at the minute is something to do with all the activities that you like, and the fun of being with people that you can do those activities with. Fine, work on it. What's your ideal then? Is it an ideal friendship? Set of friends, ideal fellowship? Is it the fun of doing things, creativity? Start to realize what your goal is, your values. What are the values you really value? Is it goodness and joy and happiness and fun and life and creativity and experience and health and peace and understanding and power to create more and do more and experience more and appreciate everything that's lovely and beautiful, and things be wonderful. Of course. It's like, the thing I say, ask the secular person in the street. Ask anyone, what's God like? Tell you, loving, kind, creative, good. Even the most enchained, legalistic mind can still give lip service to, God is loving, God is kind, even though they may be concentrating on, I'm to be obedient and to obey, and these are the laws. They still have a notion that God, in some sense, is kind and loving and perfect and good, faithful and true, honest, of the most incredible integrity, absolute perfection. So, what's your goal? Is it to be in the fulfillment of such a personified goodness as you see it? Is it to value what God might be, even if it's not a personal God, and is in some sense the ideal that God be personal, whether you think he is or not, that somehow the ideal is that you can relate to a person, not just a state? Or is the state of, for instance, purposing the values that bring all true happiness and joy and life and fullness? Are those very values, in some sense, the essence of the ideal person as well? God, you might tag names such as. Jesus' story is to say that in some sense, a better tag is to say Heavenly Father. That to name him that way gives you a head start on getting things in the right perspective. And by Heavenly Father, of course, we mean the almost inconceivably best of all possible conceptions of godliness and fatherliness. And you may see it in terms of Divine Mother or perfect friend, or just wonderful, miraculous one, whatever. But the Jesus view is to say Father, and you could say, well, that's culture specific. Yes, true, and perhaps that's more of the culture you're in than you think. But perhaps not. Fair enough. You don't have to follow Jesus. It's just recommended by a lot of people. But the view of the story is that it was recommended by God. That's an interesting view, isn't it? To say the least. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Well, for a great many people, the purpose of life is just to get more joy and pleasure now, because now is what they're experiencing. They're not experiencing much of the future. They can't quite visualize it. So they give priority to the person now that they are, not that the person that they can or will be in the future. And that situation can be incredibly damaging, for you're mindlessly going from one pleasure now to the next, and heedless of where it might end up and lead you. So we quickly find we're in a state of unhappiness by simply pursuing happiness now, in the narrow sense of I'll do what seems to be fun to enjoy and experience in the now, without taking into account our joy and experience in the future. And we learn very quickly in life, hopefully, that that is not the best way to go. And we put that out of our mind very often by, first of all, being preoccupied with something that contributes to the future, finding the cost is too great in the now, and degenerating back into just having a fun time now. So if you like, I've got the possibility of a job, but now it's very nice laying in bed, so I turn over and go to sleep. Lose the job, wreck the future. Well, they're very graphic and stark example. That is a very graphic and stark example, but we can be doing that continuously, where we always put out of our mind the importance of value on the future, our own future. So we first have to learn a selflessness between ourselves today and ourselves in the future. They both count. Our ideal is to find a very happy way of spending today that also brings a very happy future, as far as we can see. And then, of course, the next step is to extend that concern not only for ourselves and the future self, but other selves around us, because we realize their welfare too is going to affect our welfare. And then there's a final stage which seems almost miraculous, which is where we make a jump from it all being from our point of view, even our love and care of others, to somehow from the point of view of all others as well as ourselves. And that's, in spiritual terms, what we mean by enlightenment. And we understand that there goes with this a staggering joy and a staggering consciousness, a breakthrough in awareness and fullness of life, not previously even contemplated. That the fullness of life is in some sense to enter into the fullness of all life, not just our own, and certainly not just our own in the present. And that the achievement of such is just mind-blowingly wonderful, beyond our comprehension now. If that becomes your goal, let me tell you, you can achieve it very quickly indeed, unbelievably quickly, if that is your goal. It is the miracle of miracles to embrace such a goal. And you may not realize that in your present state. But my goodness, it is the solution. How do you attain such? How do you get there? Surprisingly, in a very, very simple way. Has to be a simple way, or we simple people couldn't embrace it, and we'd be denied such a blessing. So imagine for a moment a loving parent who wants to be sure their child gets there. They find a very simple way of making sure they get there. And what is that simple way? It's simply being thankful. Simply appreciating everything that you like. So perhaps you had a nice meal. And you say thank you. Because saying thank you to someone, be it your parents or an imagined God, but someone will have this incredible effect on you. And I don't mean the first time you do it, although perhaps the first time you do it, but I just mean cultivating a habit of doing such, of always being thankful, of noticing the good. The more you notice the good, the more you will notice what's good. And the more you will notice what's good, the more you will be filled with such appreciation and gratitude that your selflessness, as you might think of it, will grow into the most enormous self, way beyond your imagination, that embraces all of the goodness of life. And you'll find actually that that includes what life is, and therefore all life everywhere. You'll live forever in joy and goodness, happiness and peace. You will be what we call and what we mean by being blessed. Your life will be blessed. And a life that's not blessed by comparison is just doesn't bear thinking of. So, don't think of it. You don't need that to pursue you on. The joy and the purpose of heaven, the goal, is enough, more than enough, infinitely more than enough. You don't need the fires of hell to propel you towards it, since its loveliness alone is enough to draw you, infinitely more than enough. Put your mind to your best understanding of the best goal and endow it with all that you truly value, and you'll move towards it pretty fast. And a little bit of wisdom received on the way, well, like this recording itself, may be of great help to you. So don't pass it by lightly. Whatsoever's good and lovely, think on these things. Fill your life with gratitude and thanks. And you may personify the goal in terms of God, a wonderful God. Jesus' understanding is that you fill your life with a preoccupation with thinking about and loving God as Heavenly Father, as the embodiment, the personifying of all that you truly value, all that you love, all that is best and right in your understanding. And if you thank God and think upon in consequence such goodness, that's where you will arrive. And knowing that that's where you will arrive, as that knowing grows in you, you will move faster and faster towards it. And your life will be blessed. Bless you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Cause his face to shine upon you. May he dwell in you, and may you know he lives in you and loves you always. And may you, by such love, knowing him as your Heavenly Father, and you his loved child, May you rise in all blessedness, eternally, in the love of your God. Thank you, Heavenly Father.